Hello everyone. Today we have with us Mr. Shourya Agarwal as our guest speaker for the podcast series. Welcome to the podcast, sir. Please allow me to introduce you. Shourya Agarwal is the founder and CEO at Flam. Flam is basically a social metaverse company seeing insane interaction in India and launched in the USA within 6 months of launch. With rapidly growing AR UGC creators, it is going to take over Snapchat AR in next 30 to 35 days. And Flam is now the leading company in the metaverse space. Also, he is the founder of Hummingus, a social media network powered by AI technology. Its postcard app became the hashtag one trending app on Play Store within 2 months of launch. And then the smart photo product came the new way of how people store videos in a printed form. So, without further ado, I would like to start off with today's podcast on all about this new world of metaverse, Web3, and NFTs. I believe without directly jumping into the intricacies, I would like Mr. Shaurya to shed some light on what metaverse actually means and is Web3 a part of metaverse? Welcome to the podcast.
Sure, Siddharth, thanks a lot. First things first, Metaverse is not going to be just because you asked about Metaverse. So Metaverse is not going to be about a particular use case of gaming, social education, or advertisement. Metaverse is going to be everything that you do on internet today. So like you do everything from reading news to social networking to booking a cab and ordering food. Everything that you do today, you do on internet. All of this will happen on Metaverse eventually, right? So basically, Metaverse is going to be a successor of internet, where everything will happen that is happening on internet today. Uh, One more thing to understand about Metaverse is not going to be everything virtual. It's going to be a very interesting and seamless blend of the real world that we live in and the virtual worlds augmented on the real worlds. So that's exactly how the Metaverse will function, where everything becomes a part of one single reality. And not you don't have to basically switch between your real worlds and the virtual worlds. Everything becomes a part of the single space that we live in. So that's what Metaverse is all about. Web3 and metaverse are going to converge very, very strongly at some point. But if you look at it from a very high level perspective, Web3 and metaverse are going parallel right now. So Web3 is all about ownership. Metaverse is more of a high quality concept or high level concept of how internet will progress in the future. But Web3 is basically more about ownership. So you will be owning data rather than some central organizations owning your data as a user. So that's the concept of Web3, and lot of parts of Web3, like for example, NFTs are converge in the metaverse very soon. It's already happening to an extent, but that will happen even more strongly in the future.
Right, sir. So I will like you to take up the potential of VR versus AR. Like in VR space, we see Oculus Quest, and in the AR space, we are seeing companies like Microsoft coming with HoloLens, and we saw a game like Pokemon Go a few years back. So companies like Meta have more than years of experience in this space. What are they focusing on? And Zuckerberg said in one of his interview that we are already in the VR space, but we will need to explore the AR space more. So could you brief about that?
Sure. So I think when you talk about AR versus VR, the very simple idea of VR is everything virtual, right? So the moment you wear those headsets, you lose track of the real world that you're living in, on the physical reality that you are part of. You just are basically teleported to a different world altogether, where you can do different things, right? But that's completely virtual. Augmented reality doesn't let you lose the real world focus. So basically, you are a part of the real world and you augment the virtual world on the real world. So that's more of AR. VR has nothing to do with your real world or the reality you are a part of, and that's the reason why we personally believe at Flam that VR is not going to as much as AR, because I mean, it's very, very intimidating. If you've seen some of the movies on VR, like Ready Player One, you will realize that that world is very intimidating, and users might not want to do that already. So Facebook also spent a lot of time, lot of money on Oculus, like back in 2015. It's been almost 6 years, but nothing tangible has been out in the VR from Facebook as well, right? So they have spent enough amount of money and time already. Zuckerberg strongly is focusing on the labs right now. So Facebook Reality Labs just focuses on the AR division, and that's exactly the sort of metaverse that he's talking about. So when Facebook or Zuckerberg talks about metaverse, they talk majorly about AR and not so much about VR, because they have seen VR for the last 6 7 years, it's very hard and intimidating for people or users who generally use those headsets and do everything virtual. AR is more real, more of something which you can relate with and use much more often and frequently, right? So I think, yeah, that's the Facebook stance. Like, they have spent enough time and money on VR, but AR is what they're betting on right now with Facebook Reality Labs. In general, we also believe that AR is going to take off much faster and much more larger way, because users have a good time spending time and energy on AR apps rather than everything virtual on VR apps. Even if you look at the consumer apps or the consumer landscape already, there are two companies like Pokemon Go or Snapchat who have been able to attract millions of hundreds of millions of users on their augmented reality use cases or interfaces. But I don't see even a single VR app have been able to do that already. So yeah.
Right, sir. Also, gaming is the initial boom in the sector, right? We have games like Infinity and Decentraland and Sandbox, which have their own metaverses. What other fields can this
So
metaverse be?
almost every other field, almost every field, Siddharth. So it's, as I mentioned in the early couple of minutes already, that metaverse is not going to be a use case, or metaverse is not going to be a set of use cases. Metaverse is going to be everything that you do on internet today. So from health tech to education to advertising to e-commerce, everything that's happening on the internet today will be 100x more better in terms of experience, in terms of how you conduct certain things when it comes to metaverse, right? So for example, imagine yourself in the metaverse where you want to learn something, right? So you can literally learn something. Right now you have this limited screen. Okay, this is the screen, the phone screen or laptop screen on which you're watching videos or maybe doing some sort of learning. But in the metaverse, you are not limited to a particular screen or a rectangular glowing screen where you sort of learn something, but everything around you in the 3D world becomes the canvas on which you can have virtual worlds which can help you learn much faster. So all the industries, whether it's like education, e-commerce, will be on metaverse majorly in the coming years. But yes, we believe that the starting point for massive adoption of metaverse have to be that has to be more of a social or a gaming use case, and that's exactly what we're building at Flam. All these logical use cases like e-commerce, advertising, education will happen on metaverse eventually, but the starting point has to be more fun, more fundamental, like social or gaming. That is exactly how internet also became internet. So all these logical use cases like e-commerce or advertising or all of that, that happened much later. But the first few use cases because of which internet got massively adopted were more like Facebook, right? So Facebook happened on internet and then all of us started to use internet. So I think social and gaming leads to massive adoption of any new technology. That's what happened with internet, and that is what will happen with metaverse as well.
Right, sir. So next, I want to take your views on NFT space. Like we are seeing CryptoPunks and every other creator are launching their own NFTs. So what are your views both as an investment option and from the creator side? So yeah.
But I think NFT is picking up very fast because it's very fundamental to what was anyways already happening. It's basically just getting more power to creators. So when you create something, a digital art or maybe anything that you really want, you can have the proof of ownership on that, and I think that's very fundamentally strong as the creator economy grows. So I think even on Flam, we will be betting heavily on NFTs because the sort of content that you will be able to create on Flam, right? So for example, when TikTok came, a lot of people became video content creators because creating video content was extremely simple on TikTok. You had a creative suite through which you could create very interesting video content on TikTok, right? Even today, like there are millions of video creators on TikTok because it's extremely simple to create that content. Similarly, on metaverse, on the metaverse that we are building, the creation part is very critical. So users are creating augmented reality or metaverse content for the very first time. That 3D content that they're creating is very special, very unique, and we want users to have ownership of that content. So we will be, in fact, launching NFTs for our creators very soon. And I think NFTs is a very critical part when it comes to owning your own content or having ownership of your content. So if you have a unique content that you're building, I think the ownership of that content is very critical, and that's what NFT enables.
Got it, sir. Also, what do you think NFT will grow as an investment option or people will buy as a collectible item? So what your views on that?
I think that depends totally, but yes, as an investment option, I think certain people will definitely keep. I don't think so. Anybody is buying NFTs for just collecting that piece. People are trading NFTs a lot, so I think this will be more and more towards investments rather than just collectibles. That's what people are already doing, and that's what will continue to grow.
Right.
Even with content, right? So for example, if I have my content which I create and if it is going viral, that particular content value increases, and then people can trade that within themselves, and all of that becomes much more interesting for people to earn more and more money.
Like, so you talked about Flam, right? So I want to like know about Flam in a more elaborate way. And what was your story behind it? Like Flam also got 3.5 million funding. What you guys did differently in the startup space? And yeah.
I mean, doing something differently, but honestly, I think if you have a clear vision of what you really want to build, okay, like if you have a clear vision, if you have a very clear thesis, why do you think you will really succeed? So what's the inevitable future, right? What's the inevitable future that you're really going to build? Is behind your winning strategy? Like, why do you think you will win? And what are you already building? How far are you in that vision? I think if you have answers to these three fundamental questions, it becomes pretty simple to do everything else. It's not hard to raise money if you know what you're really building. And I think that's what happened with us. So when we raised our seed round or even the pre-seed or angel rounds before that, all of that was very organic and very simple, I should say, because we knew exactly how the future is going to look like. How are we going to proceed? What are the next steps? How we are going to build that particular future? What's the thesis? And thesis was so clear, so logical, so fundamental that people believe in you for that, right? Because you can clearly see that. If founders can really see that future, if they have the roadmap to build that future, I think you can make investors see that without any hiccups. It's very straightforward. And the last part is it will it cannot be always a story, right? So you cannot always go and tell stories. Obviously, storytelling is a very critical part of not just fundraising, but in general running your company, right? It's very important you story tell your investors, your team members, your customers. You need to be a very good storyteller, but I think more importantly, you need to have the clear roadmap. At least as of that particular time, you should know what you're really doing. You should have a strong thesis, and then you should have some action as well. It cannot be always just some story in the thin air. You need to have a very well defined roadmap and actions, like what have you already done. So you need to have a product, you need to have some users who love that product. Even if you have 100 users who love your product, I think that's enough. But you should have those 100 users who love your product, right? So that all of those things makes this process very organic. Yeah. You
Right.
you need not
So
even want to have like 1,000 users who like your. This is something which I always like to say. You do not want people who like your product, but 100 people who fall in love with you, who fall in love with the product. If you have those 100 users, I think you're there. So that's very critical.
right. So the next question is, as an undergraduate, we everybody want to like be a part of this Web3 or Metaverse game. So in what different ways can we start off as a like fresher or a second year student?
Okay. So then I think rather than thinking about this particular space, whether it's metaverse, Web3, NFTs, rather than thinking about this from doing it because everyone else is doing it, I think what's very important for you guys is to at least spend a couple of months reading about what's happening in the world in terms of Web3 or metaverse in general, right? Because obviously there is a lot of noise around these topics right now, and more than noise, I think it's the real noise, because we've been building a company in this space. A lot of other people are building it, and there is very clear value creation happening already. But I think for you guys, if you're in second year, rather than just jumping onto something because you feel it's very trendy or it's very cool or in general it's going to become big, I think you just need to spend at least a couple of months, not even a couple of months. I think if you spend even a month reading about everything Web3, everything metaverse, talking to people around, maybe some of the founders, like you are talking to say me right now, so you'll get some understanding on how exactly this is happening, what we're planning to build and all of that. So you should be doing that with more number of people who are actually building in Web3 or who are actually building in Metaverse. I think that becomes the starting point. And then once you have that clarity, right, once there is no such cloud of just noise around, but if you have that absolute clarity what's happening in the space, you will be able to figure out where exactly can you do some fantastic value creation. So I think research and talking to a few people who have done that or who are doing that should be the first point, should be the starting point. And then obviously once you have the starting point, and once you know what you really want to build, say 2 months from now, then it makes sense for you to maybe work on your minimum viable product or maybe the first set of users and all of that. But yes,
Right.
what I would advise is don't wait for anything major in general. Like don't wait to graduate, don't wait for anything else. This is the time, if you're really excited about the opportunity, if you really think that this space is going to boom and have real interest, then build something very interesting.
Got it, sir. So I want to move back to like your company Flam. So I'm not really clear what Flam actually do. Like, do people hang out on such a social metaverse? So what is the basic like idea behind that?
Sure, Siddharth. So I think Flam is building, this is a very high level idea, but I think this might be very helpful to you and maybe in general, whoever listens. Uh, Flam is building on Metaverse what Facebook built on internet. So basically, we are building a social network on Metaverse. We believe that internet became internet not because Ola or Swiggy or any other logical consumer application happened on internet. Internet became massively adopted because social network happened. Internet became internet because Facebook happened on internet, right? So Facebook led to massive adoption of internet. I still remember my parents trying to call me and understand how to send a friend request because they wanted to use Facebook, right? That was a very, very fundamental need which it created. And people have this fundamental need to social network, right? So if you give them a good enough platform, that's a very interesting starting point, I believe. So because that's the first idea, that internet or maybe in general any platform, if it has to be massively adopted, social network has to be the starting point. That's what we are doing at Flam. We are building the social network. The first starting point to also building a social network has to be very fundamental, which is like creation. So if people can create content, that is the fundamental unit of building a social network. Content creation should be extremely simple while thinking or building a social network. Like for example, Facebook made it extremely simple for people to publish content, for people to publish pages. Otherwise, it was very difficult to publish a page on internet before Facebook, right? Or Facebook happened and people could do that. TikTok made it extremely easy for people to create content, create video content. That's what led to massive adoption, and people could social network on TikTok and all of that. Similarly, when we are building a social network, the first thing that we really care about is creation. So content creation on Flam should be extremely simple. And we are talking about augmented reality content creation over here. We're not talking about text content or maybe image or video. We're talking about AR content creation, which is not simple today. AR content creation is extremely hard. And what we are saying is that we need to make it extremely simple for people to basically just start creating AR content like they used to create video or text content in general. So yeah, I mean, that's what we are doing at Flam. So that to make it even more simple, people can easily create AR content, consume AR content on Flam. And I think that's what is the most interesting point we care about. And recently we have also surpassed Snapchat numbers in terms of the total number of AR creators on the platform. So I think that's very critical milestone for us, and we continue to grow that.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much. So at last, any one learning that you want to give to our viewers, that would be great.
Okay, one learning, cool. So I
Yeah.
think one learning should be this, that you need not wait for anything magical to happen for you to take that plunge and start building your company. So if you really think you are excited about something, you care about something, then do not wait. Just start building as soon as you can. There's no right time. There's no right time in terms of like, I'll graduate and then I'll start, or maybe I'll have my first job and then I'll have some money, some security, and then I'll start. Don't think about any of that. There's nothing wrong in starting late, but whenever you really want to start, just start, because You will lose nothing. In fact, it's going to be one of the best things that happened to you. Just start building as soon as you find something you really care about, and just go all in.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Sure, Siddharth. Thanks. All the best, buddy. Bye.